So you know, Suze, I had a very interesting thing happen when I was getting my hair cut on Friday. And it was the lady who cuts my hair, okay, she was asking me, she says, you know, my son's getting ready to buy real estate. He's rented for a couple years. He wants to be out on his own, and he wants to figure out what he wants to do. He asked her, you know, Mom, what's going on in the real estate market? And he says, you know, I've read all the things, I've listened to the news, I read everything that's going on, you know, and I've talked to realtors and I've had statistics thrown at me to the point to where I'm kind of going nuts. So tell me, what is going on in the real estate market? You know, and it was funny, and I had to think about it for a second. And it was, you know, and I thought, you know, I could do the same thing. I could throw some stats at her, and I can kind of tell her what this and what's that. I said, but you know, so I figured I'd break it down because she's a friend of ours, okay? And what it really comes down to is basically what is happening and what's going on with people, okay? So basically, here's what I told her, okay? And I think it's very, very appropriate that I share this with everybody else. So what I explained to her is basically, if you look at it from the standpoint of sellers versus buyers, okay, and there are a number of things that are very similar, and there are also a number of things that are very, very different and very, very dynamic. One of the things that's very similar, down here in South Florida, okay, we have kind of a polarizing political system. Now that's not saying one's better than the other, but it's basically, there's very little in between. So what that really means is that there are people who believe in one thing and people who believe in something else, okay? And in this case, it's different political parties. So what's really going on down here, okay, is fear. And the fear falls into three categories. There's fear of what people know. There's fear of what people don't know. And then there's the age-old fear, FOMO, fear of missing out. What's the fear that we do know? Okay, well, we do know that our political system is in opposition. Okay, we're having a problem getting to a very, very simple thing in regards to a balanced budget. Okay, and because we're not getting there, it's causing all kinds of havoc in the market. It's causing interest rates to go up, it's causing stock markets to go down, it's causing all kinds of things to happen in the market. Okay, and that's giving a lot of people cause for pause. Okay, we also have fear of the unknown. Fear of the unknown is that what's going to happen? If they can't do this, if this doesn't happen, what's going to happen?
Say, for example, like what?
An example would be if they don't meet this magical deadline of June 1st or June 5th, is it really going to impact interest rates that bad? Is the stock market going to crash? Are we going to have people's 401ks and savings plans wiped out? Are we going to have more banks failing? We don't know. And then, of course, there's the age-old fear of missing out. There's a lot of folks, especially sellers, okay, who basically are trying to figure out, hey, how can I get back into the game? Because a lot of sellers missed out a year and a half ago. Interest rates are very, very low, okay, and basically people were just giving whatever they're asking for property. Okay, so from a seller's perspective, there's those three fears. So I explained that to her, and I said, you know, those are the kind of things that your son, as a buyer, needs to consider. So, you know, as I was explaining to my friend Lisa, basically, there's always two sides to everything. There's a seller side and the buyer side. So here's what the buyers are kind of looking at. The buyers also suffer from the same three fears. Fear of what's known, fear of what's not known, and of course, fear of missing out. But theirs is a little bit different than the seller's perspective. From the fear of what's known, okay, buyers know that there was an opportunity about a year and a half ago with much lower interest rates, okay? And there were properties that were available that they could qualify for a year and a half ago at lower rates that they don't qualify for now, okay? That's a big fear, and that's a big disappointment for a lot of buyers, okay? And that really threw kind of a kink in a lot of buyers' plans. And in fact, the interest rates were so low that the possibility or the probability of having to pay a little bit more for the property really wasn't that much of a big issue for them, because when you're looking at interest rates in the 2s and the 3s, okay, you know, the difference in payment is somewhat negligible and it's a lot more tolerable. Now what they're seeing is interest rates in the 6s. That changes things a whole lot. Somebody who could qualify for a $600,000 property last year may not qualify for anything over $450,000 this year. So that's a big problem, that's a big concern. So that's a fear of what's known. They know that interest rates are probably going to go up again this year, okay, because the Fed's meeting, and that's going to cause them some problems and some concerns. As far as the fear of what's unknown, is that they have a similar fear as the sellers do, and that's basically the fear of what happens. You know, what's going to happen? What happens if our politicians can't come together and agree on something? Are we going to have a war? Are we going to have multiple wars? Are we going to have the economy fail? Are we going to have more banks failing? All of those things are unknowns that basically buyers are afraid of, because all of those are things that are going to impact the economy and impact their ability. The other thing that they're afraid of, okay, is companies are laying people off. Am I going to have a job 6 months from now? These are all things that buyers themselves are concerned of. Then the other part of it too is that also the FOMO, the fear of missing out. And on that, it's really from the standpoint of, you know, how much did I really miss? What could I have bought when interest rates were in the 3s that I can't buy now that interest rates are in the 6s? Okay, and for a lot of folks, I mean, that's a life-altering decision. If you're looking at a single-family home and you have a family of 5 or 6, okay, getting that 4-bedroom was a whole lot easier and a whole lot larger when interest rates were in the 3s, whereas now maybe you only qualify for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So that's a huge concern for a lot of buyers. There are concerns around what's going to happen with some of the legislation that's coming through. There's increased insurance rates. There's increased costs for doing everything. Is that going to impact the homeowners association? How's it going to impact that? Am I still going to be able to get what I thought I was going to get? Am I still going to be able to find the kind of community I want to be in? Those are also things that are very, 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 very near and dear to a lot of the buyers' hearts, and they don't really know. So there's all kinds of challenges that even buyers are having. And what that's causing right now is that despite an increase in inventory in the market, and despite the fact that interest rates are still historically at rather low levels, okay, is that people are afraid to do anything. Sellers are afraid to sell because they don't really know where they're going to go, because they're not sure if they can find something. Buyers are afraid to buy because they don't really know what's going to happen. They don't know if they're going to have a job next week, next month, next 6 months. They don't know if they're going to be able to afford this. They don't know what's going to happen. Everybody's afraid. You know, is their 401k going to get snacked again? These are all concerns that a lot of buyers have in what they're doing. And it's even concerns that sellers ultimately have, because when the sellers decide to sell, they just became buyers. So welcome to our channel, Living in Fort Lauderdale with Kevin Suze. As much as we love doing our videos, and we truly do, one of the things that we really love is helping folks out with any real estate related questions about anything going on here in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, or any of the surrounding areas. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask us any questions. Give us a phone call, shoot us a little text, DM us, drop us a note, drop us a comment below, okay? And also you can click the link and set up a time where we can chat for about 40-45 minutes about all the questions that you may have. And with this market, with the way this market is right now, and things that are going on here in South Florida, and things that are going on more specifically in the Fort Lauderdale and surrounding areas, there's a lot of questions folks have. Please feel free to go ahead and reach out and let us know. If you would consider subscribing to our channel, hit the subscribe, okay? Hit the bell to get notified every time we drop a video. And please, if you like what we say, let us know. If you don't like what we say or don't agree with it, that's okay too. We want to hear from everybody. It's what makes the channel well-rounded and what makes it so appealing to everybody. So folks, we've talked about the seller side, we talked about the buyer side, we talked about some of the fears that the buyers and the sellers have. But at the end of the day, what's the impact on the market here? Well, what the impact is, what it really comes down to is the market has just kind of stalled, okay? A year and a half ago, it was an incredibly strong seller's market. Not a lot of inventory, interest rates are very, very low. Folks were coming in from other areas of the country. They were coming down in droves. They didn't really know have a place to stay. And because interest rates were so low, people didn't really worry about as much the price of the places. They were just looking to find a place because sellers had recognized, you know, almost historic appreciation on their properties. You know, they were happy to sell and move on. Fast forward to today, okay, things are a lot different. Interest rates are a lot higher. They've doubled, which basically cuts down the amount of home that a lot of folks qualify for. Okay, there's a lot more inventory on the market because there were sellers that are trying to capitalize on being able to sell their property when they're still recognizing some of that very, very high appreciation, especially if you've been in your home for more than 7 years. These fears that we've been talking about are what's really, really causing kind of havoc in the market. The market itself doesn't know what to do. Sellers don't know where to go. They don't know if they're going to be able to afford to find something else. So they're kind of waiting things out. Buyers, they're terrified. Recession is high, interest rates are a lot higher, companies are laying off. We've seen all kinds of layoffs in the tech sector and all kinds of layoffs in other verticals. I mean, Meta, Facebook, you know, all kinds of retail places are shutting down. Bed Bath & Beyond is basically filed for bankruptcy. A lot of people are having a hard time finding a job. So, I mean, and then there's banks that are failing, okay? And when one bank fails and then another bank fails, then a third bank fails, okay? That gives people cause for pause. So it's causing havoc in the market, and what happens when things like this occur is basically people just stop doing. They just hold off because in many, many people's minds, doing nothing is better than doing what they could perceive to be doing the wrong thing. The real estate market is very, very weird right now in South Florida. And it's even, I mean, even when you start getting to be more local areas, like even when you're going out to some of the suburbs out there, Coconut Creek, Coral Springs, it's very, very weird, okay? And it's one of these things where it's kind of a cause and effect. Is there uncertainty in the market because of the fear that everybody has as to what may or may not be happening, what may or may not be going on, and fear of what they can and can't do? Or is it the fear itself is a result of all the uncertainty? So folks, honestly, right now, nobody really has the answer, but what we are happy to do is we're more than happy to go back out and answer your specific questions, address any concerns that you may have. Please feel free, drop us a note, give us a call, shoot us a text, hit the Calendly link, go ahead and sign up for a time where we can sit and chat for the next 40 to 45 minutes. Any questions you may have about the South Florida real estate market, Fort Lauderdale, or the surrounding area.